Time now for Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace and former Ottawa Senator Jason York.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coming In Hot. Brent Wallace, alongside the smartest man in hockey, Sean Simpson, and, of course, Jason York.
You know what? I got to get some information, Yorkie, as we tip off the show. Who are you feeding the rights to in that fight anyway?
That's you know what that is? That's old Jason Allison. Remember Jason?
It is.
Allison?
The Alley Cat. That's the Bruins uniform?
That he was playing for the Bruins.
Yeah.
I was obviously with the Sens at the time. I don't know how that happened. We're in the corner. A little cross check. I don't know. It wasn't much of a fight. Did get one little uppercut in there, Simmer. I don't know why we use that clip anyhow. It should be like a quick rounding the net, maybe cut up the middle, fake pass up to the winger. That's more.
Or the game where you had 15 shots on goal, but I drafted the Alley Cat, then we traded him to Boston. He became a star, yeah. And then had him with the Leafs when he was the slowest man in the history of mankind.
He was so good. There was about a 2-year period where he was one of the top guys in the league, and then the boots just slowed right down, and the league got quicker, right?
Well, you know what? He really worked on his skating coming out of junior and became a hell of a player when we traded him. And then the back went, and then he had some major back issues. But between Boston and LA, no, he was a hell of a hockey. He protect the puck like hell. Morning,
I joke about this with my kids all the time. Everybody from the 90s has bad backs. You know why? Because nobody worked out properly. Everybody started working out because nobody in the 80s worked out at all. You came to camp to get in shape. The 90s, you came to camp, but they sent you this summer program, and I still have mine. And it's basically bench press, incline press, lat pull downs, squats. It was like a bodybuilder's workout, and there's not if you're basically for your core, which protects your low back. They had crunches in there.
Okay. Can we do this later?
We are not connecting part of the body. One quick note, though, Yorkie. I had from Larry Kelly. I had a $25,000 signing bonus if I could bench press 175 pounds 10 times. So, what do you think? What do you think I focused on the whole summer? I couldn't do it. That really helped beat a goalie. It was very important.
It's 100% true. Every team had a bench press thing. So all guys were doing the summer.
Oh my gosh!
Hammer the bench because you didn't want to fail. So crazy.
Listen, we don't have time for this. Ian Mendes is joining us, and he doesn't have all day, so we're just gonna bring Ian in right now.
Let's go, Mendes.
God, I'm sorry, Ian. I'm sorry.
Look at me. You've been doing some bench.
Have I?
Ian's suffering from PTSD as he hears this clip before he comes on.
Exactly. I was thinking, I see Wally's dying to get to this part, and Stimmer's just chatting away. I'm like, this brings me back in the day.
It's like this, Mendes. He's like, must stick to Nerd Report. Must stick to Nerd Report. He's like,
Good morning, Ian. Thank you for joining us. Listen, we've already wasted 4 minutes of your time. So can you just, and I haven't talked to you since, can you just tell me what the draft was like quickly?
Oh man. And I apologize because I know Wally, you had reached out to ask me if I could join you guys from the Sphere. The reception inside the Sphere was like non-existent. Like the Wi-Fi was terrible in there. The data was, I couldn't even get a data signal. So that part of it was tough, but it was an amazing experience. And I really hope, and Simmer, I mean, you're a guy, you've done so many drafts in the past. Mm-hmm. I really hope they stick with the in-person draft. Like you could just, in talking to scouts and talking to people, they just love it. It's just this one opportunity where the entire hockey world gets together. And I hope it wasn't the last one. If it was the last one, it was a great one to end on, but it was phenomenal. And it was,
I really don't understand it, Ian, to be honest with you. Like, to me, a couple of things here. First of all, for the player, it's incredible. I don't think anything else is like it. And as you mentioned, one of the toughest parts in hockey is amateur scouting. Those guys are lonely. They're off on their own. This is the one time to kind of showcase the guys, get all dressed up, get excited. And we joke, but being on the stage. So I to be quite honest with you, I don't really understand the rationale while of moving it back and being centralized. Come on, with technology nowadays, I think that's more of an excuse. So hopefully that's not something they do, because I'm sure Yorkie has a funny draft story, but I think it's awesome for the players.
The scouts need to take a stand here, Simmer. Like, just all of them get together and say, we want a draft. Like, get some science, because you're right. This is their reward. They get to go out for three nights in Vegas. Everybody to tell them what a great job they've done.
But regardless, the NHL struggles to sell this game properly for most of the events. This one, they knocked out of the park. Like, you're glued to it, right? You want to see the stupid trade alert come up. There was no more thanking everybody. They got all I thoroughly enjoyed that draft.
Yeah, they promote players, Ian, that will not play for 5 years. They make it feel like the NFL draft. Like, they have done an incredible job of hyping these kids and projecting them, and even the terminology that Craig Button uses now is very NFL-esque when you watch it.
Yeah, so I think one of the big reasons. Oh, sorry, Yorkie. Like, one of the biggest reasons why I think they want to move it is a lot of the general managers felt like, okay, so you're telling me I got to leave the draft Saturday and free agency starts Monday. Yeah. It's and there was a lot of people last year in Nashville. There was a lot of busted connections because of thunderstorms. This year, like, the Calgary Flames got stuck in Vegas for, I think, an extra day because of the WestJet labor dispute. There's a lot of the Leafs actually ended up keeping their entire hockey ops staff in Vegas to run free agency. I think logistically, that's why I think a lot of teams are like, hey, we don't like leaving on Saturday and having to set up shop. Like, just logistically, I think that's the biggest reason why.
But you know what? End the season sooner. Move the draft.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Wally, that's it right there. The NHL playoffs, it drags on way too long. Like, get it done. You don't need 3-day breaks between the games. Like, you need the rest time. No, you don't. You get on the plane, get to the next city, and get the series over. It goes too long.
In defense of most of the scouts, most of them don't want to be in Vegas and Nashville. They want to be home with their families.
Yeah. Ian, we're just moving right on. Okay, I know you want to say something. We're just moving on.
Can I say one thing though, Wally, real quick? Like, if you look at the last 3 in-person drafts, we've gone Montreal, Nashville, and Vegas.
Ooh.
I think what a
lineup.
We're due for an Ottawa draft to reconfigure everything, right? We gotta get back home here. Settle down, everybody. Yeah.
The 05 lockout draft.
Yeah.
When they did it in Ottawa, they just had Bobby Ryan and Sidney Crosby at the table. Anyway, moving on. You just wrapped up development camp. I read your Halliday story. It's fantastic. We'll get to Stephen Halliday in a sec. Your thoughts on what you saw over the 4 days.
I'd love to tell you that I sat there and watched practices. I didn't. I asked for some time with Stephen Halliday and Carter Yakimchuk, and that's all I did. Now, I did watch the 3-on-3 tournament. Guys, that kid Yakimchuk's shot, it's wild. Like, it's NHL. Like, it's a laser. Like, I can't tell you anything else about his game and all that. I think he's very raw, but my God, the shot is it's unreal. So, but yeah, I'd be lying to you if I said, watch for this, watch for that. I get to July and I'm like, I can't do it.
And by the way, we're not going to see these people for a few years for the most part. So to get all this hype in of like, oh my God, he's going to be the next, you don't know. We have no idea how many of these guys are going to play in the NHL.
Okay, here's the thing though, like, it can't be that raw. I love that word, raw. He did score 30 goals in junior, so that's a pretty good raw. That's pretty good. Like, that's tough to do, fellas.
Well, and a lot of them, Ian, weren't even shots, at least from the highlight tape. That's what I'm kind of surprised. You can go back to Lassie Thompson's draft year with bombs. This guy is curling and dragging everybody. Reminded me of a young Pavel Brendel when we talk about people that can. Wow. I know. You talk about guys that can shoot the fucking junior, hey?
Well, argue Pavel Brendel, for our younger listeners, arguably maybe the worst draft pick of all time. Would he go top?
No.
Patrick Steffen, probably, right?
Patrick, yeah. At least he played. Nail Yakupov?
At least those guys played. But Brendel didn't even play.
Yeah, him and Jamie something were drafted by the Rangers the same year. They had the 2 high picks. But I was part of drafting Alexander Volchkov. So, like I said, I any idea that he's the worst, I was a part of a few of those myself. So I'll just keep quiet.
It's okay. So we're gonna move on then to Stephen Halliday, because I watched him play in the playoffs in Belleville. I thought he was phenomenal. Let me temper that. I thought he was really, really good for a guy that just basically jumped out of college and is now playing, and he's leading the B-Sens in scoring in the playoffs. What did you take from him?
So what I love about him is he's a kid. Like, first of all, he's just a hockey nerd. Like, absolute. Like, I talked to him about, because he's worn number 19 like a good chunk of his life. And I asked him, like, do you know the history of number 19 in Ottawa? Because Yashin and Spezza and Batherson, right away, he lists off Jason Spezza and the fake clapper. And, and he talked about, he used to make Instagram videos when he was a teenager. All he did was watch hockey videos and make highlight reels of Patrick Kane and Clayton Keller. He's encyclopedic. His knowledge of hockey is crazy. So I love the fact that the kid's got passion, and I love the fact that he kind of looks at Drake Batherson and Mark Stone and some of these other guys that were later picks that took some time to develop. He knows that that's his trajectory. And it's funny that you say that, Wally, about seeing him in Belleville. I remember, and all three of you guys really respect, I think, AJ Jackieback's opinion on certain players, because he's watched a lot of junior kids and all that. I remember AJ coming back from the Belleville playoffs and said, "What? This guy's a player. Like, this guy's absolutely a player, and he's going to have a chance to play NHL games." So the question I have, though, is like, is he a fourth line center? Like, could you have a guy whose skill set is he's big, he's a playmaker, he's sort of got great vision? Does that fit the mold of a fourth line center, or does he have to play up in your lineup? That would be my question on him.
I think he's so offensively talented that he's got to be top 9 minimum. Like, watching, he went into Belleville, played 10 games or less before the playoffs started, I believe. And then all of a sudden he's on their number 1 power play unit and arguably their best power play player. That's like, we're talking the American Hockey League here.
I'll throw a name at you guys. And I know times have changed, but they haven't changed that much. It's still hockey. One of the best players that I've ever played against the American League, led the league in scoring, is a center, was a top line center, is Sean Van Allen. This guy was all offense growing up. Here's the thing with, and Simmer knows this, here's the things with really smart players. Really smart players understand if they want to play in the NHL, they might have to change their game. And they're smart enough to know, because playing defense isn't as hard as playing offense. It's harder physically, but mentally, you just have to make a commitment towards it. You got to be strong physically. But really smart players can read the game, really good defensively, because they know. So never count those offensive guys out, because we forget this too. Most guys in the NHL were the best players on their team growing up, and were the best players in the minors. Like, they don't take guys usually that are grinders in the minors and say, okay, you're going to be our grinder. Like, sometimes, but these guys, especially smart guys, Wally, they figure it out and they say, if I'm going to be in the NHL, it's going to be on the fourth line to change my game. It's not that tough.
No, and for myself, unfortunately, I was in rehab. We didn't get the Belleville games, only the Leafs, so I don't have a big comment. As far as the player, what has really changed, Ian, is that the dimension of the player has changed, what you look at a fourth line. But Yorkie brought up a great point, and I did a study back in probably the late 90s, and it has changed in the 32-team league. But if you go through and you go, Guy Carbonneau is a great example. We had Mr. Amadio on yesterday, a 50-goal scorer. There's a lot of guys that at the lower levels. The question, I think Wally's point is, and we talked about this yesterday as well, is he better service to go to Belleville right now? Like a Ridley Gregg, or you don't want him as a fourth line center. Is he better to go to Belleville and play, or do you slide him in? But when you looked at Vanner and those Cape Breton teams, and Bill McDougall's another name that never made it, but there's guys that are just ginormous scorers at that level that do adjust, do become very good players. I think it's more of a question of what is your role for him in the future? Will you kind of slow down his development if you put him in the NHL right now? But I do think that's changed. I think there's a lot more of guys filling in roles and filling in the 12 spots that would not have fit, that would have had to be top 6 forwards back in the day.
Absolutely.
Ian, a little disappointed you didn't mention Peter Schatz-Levy wearing number 19, but we'll move past that.
Old Schatz-Levy, there's a name.
Oh yeah, Yorkie's probably got some Schatz-Levy stories.
Oh yeah, he was the Russian baby bear. That's what we called him. Great guy. I loved Schatz-Levy. That guy's skill, Ian, was off the charts. Like, world-class skill. It's just some guys just don't figure it out, don't get the opportunity. But Baby Bear didn't last that long.
No,
Great
you watch
guy,
him I watch him internationally. He was a star.
Oh.
You know, and the transition I think is easier now, but at that time, yeah, there were still guys that both on and off the ice just couldn't figure it out.
I still remember doing the story. The Sens have now found their second line center.
Yep. There you go.
That lasted about 4 games. Ian, before you go, it's you're on vacation. So one, I do apologize you hopping in. Do you have big plans for the vacation?
No, we're headed to Toronto later today. We've reached the point where our youngest daughter is starting to think about university stuff. So we're going down to check out Toronto Met, the campus down there, and spent a couple days in Toronto. So that's about it. I don't. Wally's just fishing to check my schedule to see when else I can jump in, and because you guys are probably all taking vacations.
Okay, Smarty. I was just curious if you had any home improvement things you were doing around the house.
Oh wow! Because I borrowed your Sanders. Yeah.
You handy, Ian? Are you handy?
Oh God, no! Not like the least. Like Wally knows this firsthand. Like I can, and I mean, Simmer and I used to joke about this all the time on the radio, right? Like the handy skill, I just don't have them at all. Like I can changing a light bulb, count me in. Yeah. But I get a little scared when you screw the light bulb back in and it turns on. I get a little skittish. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little hot.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is to help Ian with some kind of power tool. It gives me sheer pleasure. All right, Mendes. Yeah. I know you got
it.
So
that's it.
Well,
he wants to stay. Look at him.
The Jason Allison anecdote. Fun fact: Jason Allison is still taking that penalty shot. He's almost at the net. He's almost at the net.
I think O-Dog and Eric Lindros are on his wings, waiting to tip it in.
Okay, then Ian, we have a question for you. Because Simmer tweeted this yesterday, asking if Canada were to beat Argentina tonight in the Copa America, would it be bigger than the 1980 upset of the U.S. over Russia?
Boy, it's a great question. Like it feels like, and I think it's Simmer. Is it number 1 against number 47? Is that right?
48.
48
again, people brought it up. There's no doubt that the depth of the soccer, it's more comedic on the hockey side, but you know, it's still, we'd be playing Bosnia Herzegovina in the hockey side versus Argentina, Canada. That's what 1 in 48 looks like in soccer and hockey.
You know what? The problem is the Miracle on Ice has been like immortalized. There's been movies made about it. It's almost like nothing can ever touch it, right? But in modern day talk, even us just winning the other night against Venezuela, I thought was just this awesome moment. I don't know. I would it be the greatest upset in Canadian? Who's the boxer who beat
George Chuvalo?
Chuvalo hung with Muhammad Ali, but he didn't beat him, did he?
No, well, he should have.
And Lennox Lewis. No, I don't know. I don't know. This might be the greatest Canadian underdog story, right, of all time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when you went back politically, and it was so different in 80, right? What you had going on in the United States, you had the Cold War, and also I guess you'll say that if this was the World Cup of soccer and we were in the final, that would take it to another level as well, right? I mean, not to disrespect the Copa America, but even from that standpoint of what's going on right now, the Euro would have a much bigger draw than necessarily Argentina. But I just think it's cool that it's brought to Canada and the diversity that we now have, both in soccer and then look into the basketball program. That's just been kind of refreshing, you know, that we're on the big stage with some of these countries, and we love it as Canadians, right? Anytime they're Argentina said we're tough to play against. Oh my God, I love it. That's so Canadian.
Sean O'Sullivan was brought up by Jake in the chat.
Oh my God, one of the biggest.
Boxer.
But he was one of the biggest busts of all time. He and Willie DeWitt were Olympic champions. Yeah. But then neither Sean O'Sullivan, he was actually corner. Sugar Ray Leonard was in his corner, but he never did anything to pro. The only pro that, and I think he's passed away now, is Trevor Burbick is another name.
All right, I'm at my DeWitt's end.
Oh, there he still got it.
Hey,
still mid-season form, Mendes. Mid-season form.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you later. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, Ian. Mendes has to get back to Yuck Yucks after that. After that ending. Oh God, he's here all week.
Yeah. See you, Mendes. All right, see you guys.
See you. Cheers.
Love that guy.
I love it. What a nerd. at their wits' end.
Yeah. He always said, and he tries to hold back on some of them. His whole brain just oozes those types of phrases. And he's like, I'm going to throw this in, and then he'll lay it on you.
So Ian and I, when I first started doing radio, Ian and I worked together because, there's holidays, and I ended up Mendes and I did a show together for about a month. So of course, when you do a show, you got to have a name. So of course the Mendes brain starts working, and we took a little Mork and Mindy spin.
Oh yeah. So I remember that was awesome.
York and Mindy.
Yeah. I like that.
We used to when he was at Sportsnet, we would sit in the press box for games and take the rosters and make up stupid sayings with the names like Nicola Habibullah Rouge or Chris Herperger Helper. Like
those contests when you work 4 hours in radio in the summertime can actually come pretty handy. And I also had a quick flashback, Wally, because the greatest prospect and most hype prospect, and it's funny that you say some of these things like you wouldn't do it, but you're better to trade a lot of these kids now when they're in the World Juniors and all of a sudden they turn pro, their value. Kai Gadorov was a Sens pick that people just salivated over, and that was when Jarmo Kekalainen was making picks for Ottawa. And that guy there, like if you had traded him at his peak time before he came over, the return would have been incredible, but he didn't even sniff it over here.
Yep.
Nope. Another second line center story I think I remember doing on him.
Yeah.
Drafted 47th overall, round 2 in 2002. He played 6 National Hockey League games.
Yeah, I think he got flipped to Phoenix, did he not?
Well, he went from Magnitogorsk to Ottawa, back to Magnitogorsk.
Oh, okay.
So
what was that stat we were talking about after the first round?
He's part of the Mike Comrie trade. Sorry, go ahead.
So there's so many guys after the stat that don't even get drafted, and they're late picks that end up playing after the first round, right?
So Pavel Brendel, just to back to your point before we move on, 78 games. The next Ranger pick, Simmer, you brought up was Jamie Lundmark.
Yeah,
295 games.
That was when that was happening in Tampa under Rick Dudley was drafting every Russian that was over 6'12". There was just a run on terrible Russian players in that draft, and Neil was kind of, and it was kind of comical. And I love Neil Smith, but he's had a podcast where he's talking about the tampering this year was unbelievable. And I'm like, okay, nice try, Neil, when you worked with the New York Rangers. And from that standpoint, I laughed when Ian talked about the managers are all complaining about free agency. All the free agency's done at the draft. Like, who's kidding who? What, you got to scramble home and use the same cell phone that you're going to use for free agency? So that to me, the logistic part of it, I think is a mistake from the NHL standpoint. Move free agency. I mean, honestly, or do anything for that matter. As you said, Wally, and especially after that award show this year in particular, this draft showcase is really, really nice for the league, and it creates a lot of hype, man. I'm shocked at how much, again, for guys that either won't play or won't play for a long time, people are really, really into it.
Well, it was great. Just the pictures alone, right? Like everywhere you saw pictures of the draft, just simply because of it being at the Sphere. I couldn't tell you who was an 18th overall pick or whatever, but but you know what the draft was like. The whole thing.
That's what the NFL has done so well for so long that the NHL just doesn't understand, but they understood it is sell the sizzle, sell the hype. And if you watch an NFL game, for example, the product's not great. Like going to a live NFL game is boring. Unless you're watching one of your favorite teams, but you watch it on TV, the production, the sizzle, the hype, it's just, they've got it. They've got the recipe down perfectly, and the NHL can learn from that.
Yeah, no, to that, Yorkie, so just quickly, Warley, I've been to games where you almost want to stay outside and be in the parking lot, whereas you said on TV. And the really neat part in the United States, it's so cool, and we've had this off-camera conversation about school sports. These kids are hyped in high school. People know them because all of a sudden, what college are you going to? I went to West Virginia. Who's the kid? Yeah. They are so marketed and so well known by the time they get to the National Football League that all of a sudden, as you said, you put it on the TV, they hype the draft and everything else. I mean, look at the ratings for their combine.
If we could do, we chatted about this before, and if we could get a do-over on hockey, because Canada's hockey's game, right? It would start in high school, where kids would stay home, kids would go to high school, then you'd go off to university here. Instead, we ship our best players off to the United States to go to schools there. It makes no sense, but it's just been, you can never go back. Genie's out of the bottle, but it's too bad a long time ago that wasn't figured out. Like, we should be doing what the state of Minnesota does, where high school hockey, you stay home, you don't go away. It's just, we do it wrong here. We as great as junior hockey is, it should be done in the schools and then off to university. And then our universities would benefit from having all these great hockey players at them, and they'd have games here, but can never go back. But in a perfect world, that would be that's how you really grow it, and that's how you know it's better for the kids too.
Yeah, great experience. Couldn't agree more.
Oh, by the way, quickly, I just read today, each NFL team gets $404 million from TV revenue. They don't like
crazy. It's They
don't even they don't need to sell a ticket. They don't need to sell any concessions to make a profit.
And that's none of their local money either, Wally, right? And they were going through revenues. I think they were going through revenues of other North American sports teams, that don't even come close to that, let alone all the other stuff that happens. Wow. So yeah. And what's also just crazy about that is that they have the worst union. The part of when you look at these salaries when you look at the salaries in the NBA, but the NFL players have never done the heavy lifting. They've never been willing to go that extra mile, and owners are just rolling in cash.
Well, a long time ago, I remember when they got put to the test, all the star players in NFL said, "What? We're going to go on strike? Screw that! I want to get paid. Let's take the cap."
Yeah,
I want to see Joe Falco or whatever his name is back in out of the movie The Replacements playing. Do you remember that?
That's right. Yeah, that was good.
Keanu Reeves as the quarterback. Anyway,
that was a good movie, good sleeper movie there.
He was way better in Point Break as what the hell was his name? He was a quarterback, not Montana. That right there. That's when he was at his prime.
Point Break was Swayze in Point Break too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves was a okay.
No, we're
Dakota.
That's right. This show is proudly presented by Betway. Bet your way with Betway. Shane Falco, that's the guy's name. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Yeah, Shane Falco.
Did you guys?
Can I just get through this?
Okay, get through it. Get through it.
By the way, just betway.ca. Bet your way with Betway.
Did you ask?
No, we're not done.
Did you ask? Okay, keep going. All right, and also by our good friends at BEI. Bonisher Excavating. If you want to spruce up that driveway, boys, get some curb appeal going, BI can help with all those things. They do excellent driveway paving, aggregate, and topsoil sales as well. Plus, BI also can do equipment rentals for you. Give them a call, 613-432-1120 for all your landscape needs, or you can visit them at bonisherexcavating.com. BI is helping to shape the Ottawa Valley, and please slow down in construction zones this summer. And Wally,
so
Falco, did you ask the question yesterday to Amadio? As we all know, Falco, late 1980s, Rock Me
1986, March 29th, 1986. It is the #1 hit in the world.
I posed it, Yorkie, and it went over like a lead balloon.
Here it is. Let's hear it.
You can rock me, Amadeus.
We've probably just spent 10 grand doing that song.
You got nothing, so Amadio just gave you the blank deer in the headlights.
Oh, it was it was he couldn't have moved topics quicker. I don't know if his dad even in the background is like, Jesus, who are you talking to?
he hadn't heard it, which is shocking to me.
That is. I can't even, like a place like Vegas, I would think for as cheesy as they are, Wally, that would have been an automatic that he'd be playing that.
So we're hoping that perhaps one goal song will be this when he scores next year. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah. He was good though. I watched some of the interview yesterday. Good kid, eh?
Yeah,
he is a good kid. Very good.
Yeah.
By the way, we have another interview coming up Thursday morning, 9 a.m. With another all-star guest.
I like this, how we just tease it, fellas? We don't tell anybody. We wait and just release it the morning of. It's just
exactly. Hey, it's just like Netflix. You're just sitting there waiting for Making of a Murderer. I need the next episode to come out.
All right, let's keep this rolling. Oh, okay. Before we get on to the Sens, we got something to tell you. We have a contest. Okay, so hang on one sec, TJ. So this contest, people have asked us all summer to play with Yorkie. And we were like, you know what? Let's do it. So on September the 5th, our good friends at Redoview are going to give you a round with a buddy.
Whoa. Wow.
To play with Yorkie. And it apparently has to be me as of right now, but I'm still trying to convince Simmer to do it. But Simmer will be there. So you can throw it up, TJ. So basically, it's the Coming in Hot golf contest. Here's what all you have to do is just email the show. Tell us why you should be chosen to play with Yorkie and myself. And this isn't AGT or American Idol. We don't need all the sappy stuff. We prefer humor. We will read some of these on the air. So entries have to be in by the 15th of August. So just write in whatever you want, and we will pick a winner. Okay? Day at Redoview. We're going to have supper afterwards. We're going to have some prizes in there. This might be the greatest contest in the history of contests.
It might be. It might be. And you know what? I played a charity event at Redoview yesterday. It is in amazing shape. They did a total reno of the golf course, new bunkers. They got some shave backs on the green. Fantastic golf course. Brand new driving range. It's Steve Duckett does a great job out there. So yeah, this is Wally. Wow, you've outdone yourself here.
Yeah, it is nice, and that time of year, first of all, is perfect. A great course. Love Stevie, and I'll also say if you want to hang out, pretty good restaurant and bar there as well. That is that's just a great spot, and they got a great membership. So be a ton of fun. Looking forward to it.
So they've got a waiting list membership. So we had to move some stuff to get us on the course. So it's going to be a 1 o'clock tee off. It is absolutely worth it. I know, Yorkie, you're a member somewhere else, but in my opinion, the greatest course in the Ottawa area.
It's a great course. Royal Ottawa is a fantastic course as well. My favorite, but who's a member out at the Redoview Simmer? The old Gooch. That's where the Gooch is a member out there.
Oh, nice. And the 9-time city champion, Liam McGuire.
There's a whole cast of characters.
I've even heard they've had a few dust ups in the parking lot. There's they like to kiss and tell. There's lots of stories about Redoview for sure.
Yeah, great spot.
All right, now Coming in Hot Sens, by the way, email the show at cominginhotsens@gmail.com, by the way, if you're just listening and can't read that. So here we go. Show title today, Mission Accomplished. So is Steve Staios done? Is it mission accomplished? He went out and got a coach, got a goalie, got a right shot D, brought in some veterans. We do believe there might be a hole in that fourth line, but is this team ready to roll?
First of all, I think we should be using the Mission Impossible soundtrack for that trade he did for getting Corpus trade off the books. And,
I want the face of Staios on Tom Cruise, basically holding on the side of the bus right there. That's what we got to. Come on, TJ, let's get her going here.
I can't like he's done a nice little bit of business so far. I don't know about you, Wally and Simmer. I still think there's another deal coming down the pipeline. I wouldn't be shocked if they brought in a veteran defenseman to maybe shore up that blue line a little bit. Just a guy that's a bigger body, a defense first type of guy, older. I know they got Hamonic there, but to me that would be the one more move I think they could make later on in the summer here.
Yeah, I don't think there's a team, guys, whether you're working for or playing for, and you could be the best team. Florida just won the Stanley Cup. You'll look at your board and everyone on your staff will say, God, if we could get one more guy. From an Ottawa perspective, it's forward progress. To me, the furniture has been put in place. I'll use the analogy when Pierre Gauthier came in. If you realistically look, probably the worst trade he made was flipping out Dimitra, but it was some of the moves, Yorkie, of bringing in, people like yourself. But when you really look back at that lineup, it wasn't crazy sexy. But you looked at it and said, okay, they're finally organized. You now have a manager. You have a director of hockey operations. You have ownership. You have a coach. Everything is filtering along. So the sum of the parts, Wally, I think it's job well done. Very methodical in the process. And my feeling when I go through the lineup, lock in the goaltenders, that's a perfect fit. Ullmark, Forsberg, the fact they've got young families, what you're going to do as a duo there, let the other kids marinate in Belleville. I think Yorkie personally, in not buying out Hamonic and having JBD, you're set on defense. I think internally they're going to figure out forwards 10, 11, and 12. And somebody brought up some PTOs yesterday, which I'm not a fan of. One thing I would look at this group to be is probably active on waivers, should there be an opportunity. That, to me, if they're going to bring a veteran player, and I would say more of a forward, that would be kind of my guesstimate, Wally, going forward. Beyond that, I'm not feeling much. Like I said, I think that in the process of what he's doing, I don't really understand what assets would be pushed out the door, what would necessarily be done at this point, or even for that matter, who's available.
I think it's going to be a really interesting camp for Ostapchuk to see how he does at camp, because that's I know they like him a lot. He's a big body, and remember we had David Bell on last year, Wally. Yep. He was gushing about him, saying that this guy's an NHL player. So really important summer for him in the gym, getting bigger, getting stronger. So I'm excited to see what he does at camp this year.
Yeah.
Question is he ready for a full season?
Yeah, who knows? So you never know. You never know until like what he does at camp, how he comes in. It's how you carry yourself. You got to show up at camp, and it's a delicate line because you don't want to be too cocky, but you have to come in with a little bit of swagger in your game. And you'll be able to see it from day one if he's got it.
And I gave a little credit yesterday, Yorkie, because one thing I will say under Pierre Dorion they did a good job of was not forcing guys in. And this is the balance right now. Every year there's a mandate to win, Wally, but also looking big picture. When Foreman and Guy Boucher wanted to keep him, nope, not going to happen. Drake Batherson not going to make the team. In the case of Ostapchuk, could he play a full season? That's a possibility. Is it the smartest thing at his age and at his spot to basically play here? I say no. Certainly time in Belleville, maybe it's 40 games, but he'd be better off than necessarily being in a fourth line spot. So those are the things. And the Halliday fella, I don't know much about him. I'm really intrigued as well, because we also see where some of the college kids come in are just a little bit more mature, both on and off the ice, and are able to slide in roles like that. And I don't mind the fact that I wouldn't mind a fourth line that can actually do some things and make some plays and maybe score some goals versus just getting out there and killing time.
We need a Rourke Chartre. We need a Rourke Chartre board here of what's going on with Rourke this summer.
I don't, right? Like he must be trying to sign. I just feel like he's either trying to sign somewhere else or like getting a one-way deal but
one way is going to be tough for the Rourke dog.
Right? He'd be very valuable in Ottawa for sure.
I think he's like, you look at him going to a team where he gets one of those larger minor league salaries around $200,000. It's a two-way, but a really good two-way, because that's just a good pro you like having, whether it's here or somewhere else. He's a useful guy for a lot of teams.
Yeah, and you can also cross lines, and I know it's a new coaching staff, Wally, but you sometimes don't bring players back because you also don't want them to clog up what you may be given an opportunity to in younger players. Philosophically, to me, they've made a decision on him, and I would have thought it'd be an automatic. I thought I really liked watching him play and the way he tracked and the things he did, but it should be a pretty easy contract to get done if you want to get it done.
Yeah. I want to go to a point you just brought up, and that was you said they might go on the waiver wire to find somebody. So here's my question, Simmer. Are they expecting to find a better player? If they're doing that, are you expecting to find a better player through waivers than you are currently listed as all the UFAs that are out there?
You're not. It's not an exact science, Wally, and I know what you're saying. What you don't want to do right now is make a commitment. I also think, as far as PTOs, for the most part, being a short camp, I think first of all that clutters things up. I think it ends up being a mistake. I know Brassard came back and it ended up working out on a thin team. You can't really say that. What you're looking at is realistically, where are you picking at in waivers? What are you forecasting when you start to do the cap and you're looking at? And I don't know if this is accurate or not. They were talking yesterday about one of the kids in Edmonton who would sign and needs waivers. I mean, you're trying to, but hey, you don't have, it's not like you're sitting there like Tom Chorsky back in the day with the first pick for Ottawa where they grabbed him. But that to me is more of get through training camp. You have your pro scouts out watching, maybe you are, Wally, but it also tells me that you're going to go through training camp and basically evaluate what you have internally before you make that decision anyway.
Okay, fair enough. What else, gentlemen? Speaking of which, Chris Patrick is now I was a little bit surprised to see that he's the GM in Washington, and then Brian moves up to the president. Like, we're seeing a lot more of that lately. It's your former organization, Simmer. What do you think?
Simmer, it's just before I go. It's crazy. Yeah. I looked at the 3 or 4 GMs only in the existence of the Washington Capitals. That's unbelievable. It's been so It was Poyle, and then
that's wow.
Ryan Murray, and then McClellan. There hasn't been a lot of change at the general manager position there.
No, well, I'll have to go back, Yorkie, and now you say something like that. The original general manager of the team was Peter McNabb's dad. McNabb, he was with the New Jersey Devils for years. Then David Poyle came in very young, I think around 1982, brought in Jack Button. They hired Brian Murray from Hershey. So you had David Poyle. David went till 1997. Then it became George McPhee. And then George, it became Brian McClellan. And now all of a sudden to Chris Patrick. And what's funny about Chris, I know the Patrick family very well. They, of course, are part of the Patrick family of Lynn and the Patricks, and Craig is the uncle, but Dick Patrick is the president of the Washington Capitals. That's his son, and I actually drafted him when he was at Princeton. So I went to watch him and a kid named Chris Cornett, who never turned out. But we were also trying to sign Jeff Halpern at the time, so I spent a bunch of time there. Had Chris at summer camps, and just a great guy, and a real transition of what we're seeing now. Of I got to say, pro scouting used to be the best job in hockey. But this director of hockey operations, where you kind of sit there and you probably have your office and your door locked. I'm sure you have a good putting machine. When you have the general manager making all the phone calls and doing all the work, but you're kind of still there. That's a good gig right there, guys. That is pretty solid. When all of a sudden you don't really have any responsibility, but you're letting somebody else do all the work. That's a good gig right there. But no surprise, and this is the trend we see here in Ottawa, Yorkie.
I kind of like the gig Shanny has in Toronto. That's
a pretty good gig.
Yeah, when the hockey's not going well, you slide to the business side, you switch your office, and then when things go well on the hockey side, you slide right in there. Okay, a little bit of a back and forth, and then when you get when it's really bad, you go big picture. You start looking at the Raptor stuff. You start looking and building new buildings and condos, and you gotta diversify your package so you're not just lumped in as a hockey guy. Hey,
I would like to point out, Simmer, you missed 2 GMs of the Washington Capitals.
Who'd we miss?
Milt Schmidt was first.
Until
75. Then it was McNabb. Roger Crozier for
Roger. Okay.
Less than a year.
Okay, and I was also mistaken in that Roger brought in Jack Button and then David Poyle, and David always had a great story. He was the assistant GM at that time, would have been in Atlanta with Cliff Fletcher, and just a young guy, starting to go a bit gray, didn't have to do anything, had the real bad stash going, but he showed up with the big suitcase and talked Abe Poland into letting him run and made the playoffs every year. But do you know what happened the year he didn't make the playoffs? Abe Poland fired him. One of the great general managers of all time.
It's amazing. David's hair now is red. It's like auburn. It's like an auburn red. It's fantastic.
The day he showed up in the office, he had taken 2 weeks vacation. I think maybe people forgot he had gray hair. I don't think it could be. You would have to come in with a rug and get any more of a reaction and David's so shy and not that confident. So, oh man, the poor fella, like the look that he got from everybody. But I got to credit him. That was 1995. He stayed strong here 29 years later. He's gone to the same shoe polish over and over.
I wonder what you do. I wonder what you do when you decide to get a rug. Like you go away for 2 weeks and introduce it to the office. Just show up. Hey, everybody, how you doing?
And you got to get the check off at home. Like if you're married, like somebody's lying to you and telling you it's okay.
DJ, how do we mute their mics?
That's the beautiful part, Yorkie. Somebody's actually giving you the thumbs up. That actually
looks good. How was work today? How you doing?
Thank you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Are you guys done yet?
Oh yeah. I'm just having flashbacks. I'm just having flashbacks of Goodfellas. That's all I can ever think of is that fella.
It's like it's the scene in Slapshot. What is that thing on your head?
Exactly.
All right, gentlemen. I'm gonna give you the day off now to rest up for Thursday's big show. Okay.
Extravaganza.
When are we releasing our guest's name? When are we tweeting this out? Is it going to be a Wednesday night tweet or
probably Wednesday? When I confirm that everything is set up and good to go.
All righty.
Okay. So we'll see you then.
It's been fun.
All right, boys.
Thanks for tuning in to Coming In Hot. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.